Ole Miss's college football playoff run in 2026? Well, that's going to run through Kewan Lacy and company. I'll explain. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the world. That's all because of fans like you taking in content like this. Thank you very much for that. On today's show, we're going to take a deep dive into the Ole Miss running back room and the exciting new additions that could elevate the group to another level. Next, it appears that the Rebels are beginning to shape the offense around Trinidad Chambliss as the centerpiece of it. Many people are forgetting that in 2025, Ole Miss had to retrofit their offense originally designed for Austin Simmons. So what might be a true Trinidad Chambliss offense? What might that look like moving forward? We'll see exactly what's to come. But first, we'll focus on Kewan Lacy and how he is positioned to be a major factor in leading Ole Miss back to the college football playoff in 2026. All of this and more on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all of the podcast apps and on YouTube. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so I created the most perfect show in the history of perfect shows, and there was a problem with the audio. So I'm going to try and do the Tenacious D thing here and create a tribute to that show by trying to hit some of the same notes, even though I know it won't be quite the same. But Kewan Lacy is the best returning running back in the entire country. Period. I mean, he was in the top 3 for the Doak Walker Award. This year, Jeremiah Love won it. He's going to be off to the NFL. And it was Ahmad Hardy and Kewan Lacy as the 2 remaining finalists for that award. So whenever I call Kewan Lacy the best running back in the country, he is arguably the best running back in the country. Outside of Columbia, Missouri, I don't know if anybody would argue that fact. You understand whenever Lane Kiffin was like trying to cozy up at the end of the season to get him to go to Baton Rouge. He ultimately did not, for whatever reason that he, I don't know, got paid or didn't like the way the situation was handled or anything like that. Point is, he didn't go and he stuck around. And because of that, Ole Miss is building an offense for the 2026 season right now involving 2 players, and we are going to break that down on today's show. But Kewan Lacy is a main factor of that. And believe it or not, the transfer portal additions that Ole Miss brought in is designed to maximize Kewan Lacy. Ole Miss is bringing in several people that are 5'10", 5'11", 200, 210 pounds. They're pretty much the similar type running back. Whatever John David Baker likes, that is what they're going to be bringing in. But the important thing is that Kewan Lacy this year is not going to have 400 carries like he had this season. You're going to get him out of the game fairly early in the third quarter in a blowout game. If there's a game where it's getting away from the other team, Ole Miss is going to be there with other running backs that can perform. And we will go through that room in the third segment today and talk about what was going on. This first segment, we're going to talk about the college football playoff and Kewan Lacy. Make no mistake, whoever Ole Miss plays, whether it's Texas or Georgia or Florida or LSU or Vanderbilt or whoever the FCS team is, the number one player that they're going to look at on the film to take away from is Kewan Lacy. He is the most scary player in college football right now. And he has traits very similar to what Darren McFadden had at Arkansas way back. Now, different style offenses, but similar type players, long striders, running upright, extremely fast guy. There's a lot of similarities. And Kewan Lacy was a 3-star running back, just like Quinshon Judkins, out of Lancaster, Texas. I think he got up to 4-star at one point as well. But Kewan Lacy is going to have the attention of absolutely everybody. By the end of the year, they had that anyway, and it just didn't matter. He ended up running for about 1,600 yards and 28 touchdowns. So Ole Miss making Kewan Lacy the focal point of their offense makes a lot of sense, because the best version of Ole Miss is with Trinidad Chambliss coming back and Kewan Lacy, because then you have the best quarterback in the country and the best running back in the country, and let's see what happens. So Kewan Lacy running behind a line that is guard, center, guard, coming back. They still need to work on the tackle position, but I'm not as freaked out about the tackle position as some people are. Okay, I think Ole Miss still needs tackle. I think they still need to recruit it, and the rumor is coming from On3 yesterday that Jordan Seaton is considering a visit to Ole Miss after he gets done with Oregon. So if Ole Miss could pull that off, it would be a heck of a coup. But when you look at the run game, the inside zone predominant, Delano Thompson, Bryson Sanders, Patrick Kudus, they're in position to kind of be the road graders in the middle of that offensive line. The offensive line did a wonderful job this season to get better. Remember the beginning of the year, you had media personalities talking about the problem of the offensive line. This isn't good enough, yada, 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 all of that stuff. And I was like, hey, offensive line is a continuity position. It's going to get better. And they were like, oh, no, you're just pumping sunshine. This offensive line's a disaster. Ole Miss is going to have to win in spite of it. That's paraphrasing what was going on, but that was the conversation that was happening in September. Offensive line got a little bit better. That happened with Kewan Lacy becoming Kewan Lacy and Trinidad Chambliss becoming Trinidad Chambliss towards the end of the year. But the offensive line did exactly what they had to do. It'll be interesting to see exactly how they use Kewan Lacy coming up this year in the offense, because it is my opinion that Ole Miss is going to use more 20, more 21, and more 22 personnel. That's 2 tight ends, 2 running backs for 22. For 20 personnel, it's 2 running backs, no tight ends. Ole Miss offensively is going to function to where there's 2 backs or in a tight end, maybe 21 personnel or something like that. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is going to be the versatility of what they're recruiting. And we're going to go over that in the third segment again. But you take Kewan Lacy and you have another back in the backfield beside Trinidad Chambliss, because that's the idea, that there's kind of a T formation with 2 backs. You can use motion to where it turns into essentially 10 or 11 personnel on a particular play. You can do the orbit stuff to set outside. You have a pass protector, because I do think Kewan Lacy wasted a lot of hits last year on pass protection. He does a wonderful job at it. Don't get me wrong. But if some of the new backs that they got are equally as good at pass protection, that's going to be a benefit for Ole Miss. So Kewan Lacy being explosive, allowed to be explosive to where some of the other responsibilities are taken off of his plate, is going to be a net plus for Ole Miss, assuming that they can handle what needs to be handled. I'm curious to see exactly what goes on and how they look at what's happening. But Ole Miss going to the college football playoff is going to be 100% due to the running back room and what we've seen the last couple of days. The recruiting that has gone on is to help Kewan Lacy and make this football team better. And they are working every possible avenue to get players in to Ole Miss. And talent-wise, if Trinidad Chambliss gets his waiver, his injunction, this turns into a top 5 team overnight. It will be one of the most talented teams that Ole Miss has ever had, with a special quarterback and a special running back. Basically what 2024 was supposed to be. is going to be right there for the taking. And you've recruited around those people, so depth is built in that situation as well. We're going to talk about the 3 transfer portal backs coming up, but we're going to talk about Trinidad Chambliss next, because this run on running backs, it's a clear sign that Ole Miss is building this offense around Trinidad Chambliss and Deuce Knight. Yes, I know that doesn't make much sense, but we'll explain what all of that means coming up next. Man, there is nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets, well, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time is giving the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock some amazing football tickets. And I hate that college football season's over, but you can experience all of that in just a few taps. I love being able to see my view in the seat before buying, so I know exactly what I'm getting before I get it. And zone deals that kind of stick out. You pick out the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Hey, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it manages to keep all of this free. So thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. That's all because of fans like you consuming content like this, and we can't be more appreciative of each and every one of you. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemiss.supercast.com and check the link out in the show notes below to learn more. Coach Corey Burton is on there. He's going to have write-ups on the running backs for Ole Miss as this week goes on. There's an article from Mike Huseman on there right now. And Dalen Flowers pretty consistently puts up what's going on around Ole Miss sports. So we'll see exactly how that goes. All right, so Trinidad Chambliss and Deuce Knight is the focal point of this offense. And Trinidad Chambliss, should he become a quarterback, Ole Miss becomes a top 5 team instantly, okay? It's a national championship competitive team with Trinidad Chambliss back. And everybody expects Trinidad Chambliss to be back, including everybody in the Manning Center. When you talk about that, he is basically recruiting players on official visit during this portal cycle. He is doing the job of a quarterback moving forward. He is a pivotal piece in recruiting. And when you look at all that, when you take into account the lawsuit, I figure that the appeal, they're going to turn it around because they're going to lose the lawsuit. So I figure the appeal will be the spot where Trinidad gets his eligibility. And once that happens, this really gets unlocked. And there's a theory amongst everybody that at that point, Ole Miss is a piece or two away from being a national champion favorite. Okay. So whenever you look at that, you're obviously going to continue to try and build your roster all the way through February 2nd or whenever the drop ad date finale is. And you're going to tweak the offense as much as you can for Trinidad Chambliss and Deuce Knight. Now, remember, this offense in 2025, while productive, these were Trinidad Chambliss's numbers. He was 294 for 445, 3,937 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. But this offense was created essentially for Austin Simmons. For 8 months, they figured out a way to maximize the offense around Austin Simmons. When he got hurt, they had to quickly retrofit all of the install and everything that has gone in to get it ready for Trinidad Chambliss, because while he is a very good quarterback, as these numbers show you, 4,000 yards passing in a season, that's not nothing. it isn't tweaked, perfected for him. In last football season, you saw a bunch of quick access throws, a bunch of go routes downfield to where they put the corner in conflict, waggles, and things like that, getting him out of the pocket. It was a very simple offense, but it fit what he does well. My point is, this year, they're going to try and fit this offense to fit what Trinidad does well more exclusively and use formations and things like that. We talk about the use of 20, 21, and 22 personnel to line up with running backs and all that. Kewan Lacy is obviously a star. We talked about how he is going to be the focal point of the offense by the opposing team in every single game. But how do you take pressure off of Kewan? How do you take pressure off of Trinidad? You do it by adding another back. You can motion out the running back one side or another, and it becomes 10 personnel essentially overnight, or 11 personnel, which is a normal formation of what they do. You can use the receiving ability of Kewan Lacy, who is an excellent receiver of the football. And you can also, if you have another good running back, you can use him as well, taking carries off of Kewan Lacy. We talked about the number of the carries they had and all of that. Trinidad Chambliss, I think he's going to get used in the run game. I think Deuce Knight is a factor in this as well, because Deuce Knight is more of a similar quarterback to Trinidad than to Austin Simmons. Deuce Knight is a tall guy. He's left-handed. There's going to be some natural Austin Simmons comparisons. Deuce Knight is more closely related to playing the game the way that Trinidad plays it, as opposed to how Austin Simmons does. And the quick access game, the way the ball gets out of his hand in a hurry, there's worse things in the world to be than sitting behind Trinidad Chambliss learning how to play the quarterback position, because you're going to step on the field and be ready to go as soon as you're ready to go. Okay. It's going to accelerate everything. And we'll see how that looks. But this offense is going to really be focused around what Trinidad does well. He is really good at throwing over the middle of the field. He does not do well with pop passes from time to time. You saw that this season. He is not a great screen thrower. I'm sure a lot of that can get better over the time, but everybody needs to remember he's 5'11". He's 6 foot tall. He's not the tallest player in the world. This offensive line, they're having to find lanes. That's the reason they roll him out. That's the reason he moves around. That's the reason the offense kind of spreads them out from time to time so Trinidad can see. And this offense is going to be tweaked and fine-tuned to where only the stuff that is really good for Trinidad is what's in the system. So you have that, you have the Kewan, you have that wide receiver group with Jonte Cook, which, by the way, absolute monster player. When a little bit later on this afternoon, you're going to hear from the Locked On Syracuse guy about how he fits. It was originally scheduled for last night, but we had to push it because of an interview with Zach for the basketball game. But this offense, you can see an intentionality of this offense getting players in certain positions to do certain things. You want it to look a certain way. Well, it looks a certain way. You've got your jets on the outside, whether Deuce Alexander or Daryl Gill. You've got Jonte Cook, who is an unbelievably slot receiver. I don't think he's touched what his ceiling could be, but at Syracuse, started to unlock him a little bit. He had 50-something catches, about 500 yards with no quarterback situation whatsoever. So all of this, it looks like it has been built to benefit him. And they had Michael Smith, the tight end, that is very similar to Daquan Wright as far as athletic build. If he can do what needs to be done, he is going to be very well off for it. It's going to be interesting. In our final segment, we're going to take a look at the rest of this running back room that has been assembled so far. This isn't even necessarily guaranteed to be the final. And what Ole Miss is trying to accomplish with this group, all of that is coming up next. All right, so this running back room is unbelievably stacked. It is potentially the best running back room that Ole Miss has ever had, period. I don't think it's particularly close. Now, maybe not at the top end when you had like Deuce McAllister and Joe Gunn and those guys. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 1 through 7. because that's what this is 1 through 7. And one thing that you can count on, in my opinion, is like Demarius Yates and Jermichael Jones. Those two players are going to redshirt. I think it's almost guaranteed. Yates is an explosive player as a true freshman from Kemper County in Mississippi, but climbing up this list looks like it's going to be very difficult. So that is my first thoughts of this running back room. Second all, Kewan Lacy probably not going to do much of anything in spring practice. It's going to be one of those situations where if you breathe on Kewan, you're going to be running gassers after practice. Kewan Lacy in spring, you know what they have there. Heal up from what happened, get ready for the season, stay in shape, all of that stuff, you're good to go. The other 5 or so running backs, it's going to be a knife fight for carries. When you look at Makai Frazier, okay? Makai Frazier is a running back out of Michigan State, 5'10", 210 pounds. He played 8 games this season. He missed 4 out of the last 5 games. He ran for, I think, 100 yards against Michigan or something like that. Really, really good player. Again, 5'10", 210. He fits the thing where if you were going to take odds to who is the number 2 running back behind Kewan Lacy, this guy feels like he would be the obvious choice for what it's going to be. But it's not the obvious choice. And by the way, all the running backs that I'm about to show you all have your eligibility. They're multiple year transfers. So whoever, one of these guys is likely going to be the starter next year. Makai Frazier is kind of a bowling ball, can run the ball. He's very good at running off tackle. You see that a lot in Jonathan Smith's offense at Michigan State. He was able to be very successful doing that. The next running back we want to talk about is a FCS running back, Joshua Dye, who comes from Southern Utah, and they're either the Thunderbirds or the Firebirds or some sort of mythical bird. You can check out Southern Utah with that. My FCS nicknames, not where it needs to be. But he had 1,800 yards and about 28 touchdowns last season, and he was the conference offensive player of the year. He's a very good back. You worry about him jumping up a level, but he might have the talent to do what you want him to do. But like we just saw, Makai Frazier, Joshua Dye is going to have to compete with that. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. Again, about that same size in all the backs. And he is somebody that if you watch his highlight film, it seems like every other second he's breaking a big run or ending up in the touchdown. But I do understand that he was playing ball at the FCS level. Now, another player that you want to look at, we don't have a slide for it, is JT Lindsey, the running back out of Alexandria. He is somebody that had some legal trouble at LSU. He was charged with accessory after the fact because he let 2 guys that were wanted for murder stay in his dorm room, but he didn't know that they were wanted for murder. So the charges got dropped. But still, while that was going on, he wasn't allowed to take part in team activities. So nobody knows what JT Lindsey looks like at the Division I college level. At Alexandria High School or whatever was going on there, he made play after play after play, excellent vision, hard to bring down, great feet, all of the stuff that you'd want in a running back. Honestly, a lot like Kewan, he was able to do. And he was recruited by Coach Frank, who is the Ole Miss running backs coach right now. So that's the 3 transfer portal additions. We talked about the 2 signees earlier, and I've mentioned Kewan Lacy, who is the unquestioned starter going into the season. Shakai Mills-Knight is another guy that is in the room. He's a guy that people joke around and call him baby Derrick Henry, but that's mainly because he's just a big guy. He's like 225, 230 pounds. He is really hulking, and you saw him in the Navy All-American game kind of show out, and he was the designated pass blocker in that game, I guess because of his size or maybe because of his pass blocking ability. Ole Miss also got has a running back from Grenada that they signed late. that was the leading rusher in the state of Mississippi. He has a chance to be pretty good. It would not surprise me if I knew his name the next time that I needed to talk about him. And this running back room, Trey Hall, like some people talk about him getting in the portal and some people are like, what are we doing? And I'm not 100% sure there. But if Trey Hall is not in the portal, he's an explosive guy. He is a guy that we did a video last spring about how explosive and electric he is. And he is absolutely electric, or was at the JUCO level. But those running backs, those are the positions that are going to get Ole Miss to the college football playoff. That happens. Now, you got speed on the outside. Like I said, Deuce Alexander, Darrell Gill. You got it. You got Caleb Cunningham. You got all sorts of stuff. You got Jonte Cook. If Trinidad comes back, you're going to have Caden Lee. At tight end, you have Michael Smith, Luke Haas, all of that, Caleb Odom. There's skill positions all over the place. The hole right now is probably at the tackle position, so we'll see what's happening there. Again, Jordan Seaton, the transfer from Colorado that just finished an LSU visit, it could end up at Ole Miss after the Oregon visit, according to intel. And that is because when people are looking at this Ole Miss roster and what's going on, they're seeing that, hey, we're only a piece or two away. And if you have an elite left tackle, you're going to be better for it. So we'll have to monitor that. We're not at the point where I'm even believing it's going to happen, but we are going to monitor that because Chad Simmons reported it, and he's not going to report it if it's not at least real. So thank you for tuning in to today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue the transfer portal all week long. We're going to talk about the Auburn game tonight as well. We're on all the social channels as well, so check those out. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Ole Miss ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonolemisscom/supercast to join the club. For those of you on video, we are going to send you to the first ever National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On College Football, Locked On SEC. Heck, Locked On Vandy is there for you. Transfer portal is going. We're in the acquisition stage. I'm pretty excited about what could happen. Hotty toddy, everybody.